Hey everyone, I thought I might just take this opportunity to put a video together just to talk about some fundamentals of mixing in key. Now, I'll probably start with a caveat. Mixing in key isn't for everyone. It is on the proviso that if you're interested in making seamless mixes and you want your mixes to be camouflaged in the track that you're currently playing, then mixing in key is for you. If you're not really interested in that and you want very quick, sharp, dynamic mixes where you can hear the mix come in and you want that type of energy build, then I'd probably suggest that, you can continue mixing the way you mix, whether it's off key or on key. But it comes down to the fundamentals that mixing key only benefits people that are looking to mix where the transition from track A to track B and track C not only seems seamless from a beat perspective, but also from a sound perspective. So I've been DJing for a long time, probably 25 plus years. I had the luxury of being taught by one of the best DJs I think would be in the world, especially on vinyl, Dean D. He taught me how to mix. He taught me also how to key mix. And back in the 90s, I think it'd be safe to say on vinyl, I don't think there would be anyone that could match him. He would mix commercial music, and that music, for anyone that mixes commercial music, will know how hard it is to mix. You don't get long transitions. You don't get the luxury of being able to cue it up for a long period of time. You have to be very quick. You have to be very fast. So I had the benefit of learning from him. And the first fundamental rule that I learned is that your mix, if you are to use key mixing, has to come back to that number one rule that you're trying to create an effect. Now, a lot of DJs, I listen to a lot of DJ sets out there. I don't leave feedback, not my business, but sure, mixing in beats great, but if it doesn't say something or doesn't create an effect, then look, some DJs love it because that's all they want to hear. That's fine, no problem. But if you're trying to listen for something that sounds good, where you walk away and you can hear that track in the other track that you're playing, then yeah, mixing in key is going to be a benefit. So I thought I'd obviously take this opportunity to say, what do you need to learn how to do it without using a program? Now, people say mixed in key is not that accurate, and Record Box and Denon DJ and all that stuff isn't that accurate. And sure, it probably has a level of error. I would say mixed in key is probably about 85 to 90% accurate, and it's a good sanity check. People that can mix from their own ear who are musically inclined, amazing, that's awesome. There will be times though when you need to sanity check that with the keyboard. So if you are looking to learn how to find the key of a track without using programs, then you need to start with a simple keyboard, and you can buy them for $100, $200, whether you go to places like Walmart, Kmart, places where they sell, cheap entry musical instruments. It's great. Do I need to know how to play piano? No, you do not. I don't know how to play piano, maybe one or two chords, but all you need to know is the fundamentals of what key goes with what key, and potentially, and we can do this later, the difference between a minor and a major. Now, there's one thing that mixing in key or beatport doesn't give you. You'll have potentially a Camelot key in mixed in key, and it might say that if I'm an A minor, I can mix with a D and an E. And that's great, but it doesn't differentiate if the D sounds better or the E sounds better. You can only do that from ear and using the keyboard. So when it comes to track selection, creating a mix, you're not always going to be in the opportunity where you can keep on mixing A minor, A minor, A minor, and you need to change. And there's numerous ways you can change. You can go to a D minor, you can go to an E minor, you can pitch the record up and it can take it from an A to a B flat or an A sharp. You've got numerous ways to try and continue your mix if you don't have the same harmonic key. But what's important is that when you are learning how to use, obviously, key your records, there are keys that do sound better. Not every A minor with every A minor actually sounds great. There could be bass line variations, there could be different sounds. So you've got to obviously use the trial and error of programming your sets, but also if you are going from an A minor to say to a D minor, you want to make sure that that D sounds quite good in the record or the track that you're playing, because the E might sound better. So it gives you the ability to remove the variability or just that level of change in sound when you do it by ear. So when you do it manually, you can say, yeah, this mixes but this is A. I know this key's an A, but I know it mixes really great with D because I've been on my keyboard for 10 minutes trying to differentiate between the two, and I know it's an A minor now after 10 minutes, but prior to that, A and D sounded so good. The E, I could really detect that it really wasn't fitting into the track. So that is one of the benefits you don't get from no program. What are some other potential keys you can mix with it that actually are not the same key, that go with the same chord, but actually sound better? So I'll do an example. I'll play some old tracks here off vinyl. I'll start with Diana Ross, Take Me Higher. Always start with your pitch on your turntable on 0. If you go past 2, 2.5, depending on if you've had your pitches calibrated, it will move it up to the next key, or move it down if you go less. If you go plus 2.5, if the keys are C minor or C, it'll go to C sharp. If you go less than 2.5, it will go back a key to a B. So just always start from 0. Now, where do you start in the track? I know that's a common question people ask for. The easiest place to start is where there's a bass line and where there is some sound in that bass line. When you do get into the major chords, or you get into the major nitty gritty of the track, and especially with commercial music, there's a lot of sound. And when there's a lot of sound, it can become quite ambiguous what the key is. So start from the beginning of the track, but it doesn't mean you have to only do that. You can move on and do some comparisons. So let's start and we'll work it from there. Now, the first question might be, on my keyboard, where do I start? And this is another benefit of using a normal keyboard, because there is a keyboard on mixed in key. The mixed in key keyboard has, I think, 2 or 3 octaves. This gives you a few more octaves, and sometimes the lower octaves where the sound isn't as bright or high, a bit more deeper, they can give you better clues to the key based on the bass line than some of the higher octaves. So what you'll see, what I'll do is, I'll stick around mainly these 2 bottom octaves, and sometimes I'll only go up to these higher octaves when I think I need to, just for a compare and contrast when I'm trying to work through the key. So we'll start. I normally always start with C, the key C, because a lot of tracks fundamentally back in the 90s were C. A is a popular key also, but it doesn't matter where you start. What's important though, is once you feel that you hear a key kind of like fit into that track, this is the part of the music knowledge you need to have. So if I think it's a D, I want to check it with an A or a G. So I kind of need to know what these keys mix with. And yes, you can do that from Camelot keys, but it doesn't pay to just write them down and start to learn them and start to memorize them. And after a period of time, you'll just know them like that off the back of your hand. So we'll start. So we're going to start the bass line. C sounds okay. I moved up to C sharp. A sounds quite good. B flat. Now A flat's interesting. This actually sounds like it's fitting into the track. So from A flat, I want to go to the keys that go with A flat. So A flat mixes with C sharp and E flat. And I always come back to my A flat to compare it. So I'll go A flat, C sharp. C sharp sounds a bit bright. A flat sounds good. C sharp too bright. A flat still sounding good. So now I try what else goes with A flat, being the E flat. Okay, the E flat sounds good too now. Okay, now this is the part where we have a little bit of, turn that up a bit more. This is the part where we get a little bit more tricky, because now we want to differentiate between A flat and E flat. So if I go down an octave to this part of the keyboard, that sounds really good. So that's an E flat I'm pressing there. Compare it back to an A flat. Sounds really good. E flat sounding really good. So I think it's better than A flat. Now what I want to do is, now I'm staying in E flat, I need to try to rule out it's not other keys that mix well with E flat. So what mixes well with E flat? A flat, which we've been comparing, and B flat. That's B flat, A flat. B flat sounds good too. So when I compare them, E flat sounds better than B flat, and it sounds better than A flat. So in this instance, the key is E flat. But also, we'll go through this. So I can do a sanity check. E flat's definitely the key, even deeper into the record. I go up an octave now. Now this gives me a clue to what sounds better than A flat or B flat with the E flat. So that's E flat. E flat, B flat, A flat. I would suggest now, and I'll stop the record, that E flat is the key of this record. Whether it's a minor or a major, we can work that out by either going 3 keys forward to the F sharp, and there is a way to do this, and I don't want to make this too technical because I think the minor and the majors do give you an advantage of having more flexibility of tracks that you can mix with, like you can mix an A minor and a C major. But for now, it's just about finding that root key, that prime key. But from this exercise here, this is an E flat track. It mixes with A flat and B flat. But from just doing a bit of a sanity check, B flat sounded really good. And it was hard to discriminate that between E flat. A flat sounded good too. But if I was to mix with this, E flat would be my first preference. And if I couldn't find good E flat records that were mixing with this or had different bass lines or just weren't structured properly, I would go to B flat. If I couldn't find anything in B flat, I would then experiment with A flat as an alternative to try and still continue mixing the same similar sounds to create an effect, but also stay in, the same key of these tracks. Now we'll do another one. So just so you can see how I do it. So that's the record. And then I put E flat minor, and then I put what the keys mix with. So we won't worry about the minor, we'll just know that it's an E flat, and then what that mixes with. Now I know that probably from memory because you get used to it, but I always just get caught in that practice of doing it. You'll probably notice I don't do beat PMs on my records, and it's not due to laziness. It's more due to the fact that I can tell whether the song's fast or slow, and I can also tell when I'm mixing where to put my pitch. I don't need to remember BPM. So for me, when I first started, BPMs were really important. 127, try and line it up with the pitch control. But as you progress, you don't need that. You can tell from your ear quickly as you throw it in where to go automatically with the pitch. Sure, you can do it. I don't not recommend do it. I probably just don't do it because I just don't think it adds value to me anymore, and it does take up time. So we'll try another track. Now we can use a record that's been getting a lot of airplay at the moment. So a booty, God, I don't remember when this was done. This was probably done about 14 years ago by Infusion, maybe even longer. But it's getting a lot of airplay at the moment. So you want to start. See, that's a lot of sound there. So I'd probably go back a bit and start around here. Start with C. Sounds actually okay, but there's not a lot of sound. So there's not a lot to discriminate with here. So we'll move up and we'll wait for the track to get a little bit of more sound into it. Okay, now we can hear more sound. Let's see. And it actually sounds pretty good. Now C mixes with G and F. Let's try F. A little bit high. Try G, a little bit dull, a little bit low. So we go up an octave. Doesn't really tell me much. I'm going to go down an octave. So this is sounding like a C track. As the track progresses, we can keep on looking at the key and see whether the C fits better. Another tip another tip is, and this is probably where the minor and majors help, if you're on a C, sometimes you want to make sure that it's not part of a minor chord or a major chord. And some of the ways you can do that is, you know that, for example, and you'll learn this in time, so it'll take time, that A minor is A and C pressed together. It's also A, C, and E pressed together, or a few more chords. But you can, if you think it's C, you can always do a bit of a sanity check, go back to A to make sure that A is not the actual harmonic key. So there's just other ways you can just check your key. So if we go through this a little bit further. Okay, this is a lot of sounds here, so we'll get a lot of differentiation. Now the C sounds really solid. What I'm looking for is to lose that sound in the track. I'm listening to it in the speaker and I want to hear it lost. I'm going to deliberately press the wrong key now. That's a D. It doesn't sound like it's getting lost. E, nothing's happening. F, yeah, okay. A, nothing happening. G, and see when I press G, it's starting to get lost in the track, and then I'll say to myself, what mixes well with G? And I'll say C or D. And with C, I feel like I can't even hear it now when I press it to get it to drop. And when you come up here, you can't even hear it. Too high, C's good, too low. So for this track here, it's a C. It's actually a C minor, but obviously we'll talk about the minors and majors another time. But what you notice from this track here, if I was to mix out of this track, sure, I'll go for a C. But if I couldn't find a C that mixed well out of this track, my next option probably would have been a G. The F was good, but it was a little bit too high, a little bit too bright, and it wasn't blending in as well as the G. So this is the benefit of doing it manually. You get to differentiate, are there other keys that go well with C that might be better alternatives or better choices? Now, we can do one more. Now this, I should say, this is a practice too. Like sometimes it's taken me 10 minutes to find the key of a track. Sometimes even longer, just depending on how much sound's in the record. Sometimes I can find it in a minute, so it varies. So the more you do, the better you get. The first time you probably try to do this manually, if you go back to your old collections from the 90s and you buy a keyboard, it might take 20 to 30 minutes to find the key. Don't worry, quite normal. And you might want to actually write down the keys on your keyboard starting from C to C sharp to D to E flat, so you know where those keys are. There are probably other little tips and tricks you can do. But getting back to what people don't tell you about Mixed in Key, I think Mixed in Key is a great program. I have no issue with it. How accurate it is? Sure, it's got error, but every measurement tool, because it is a measurement tool, it's measuring the key and it's doing it through a program, has an element of error. And if there are two keys that sound very similar, it will probably try to work out and differentiate what that key is. And it may give you an F and it could be a C. It's wrong, but it's not technically wrong. It's kind of close. It just wasn't doing the differentiation process that we're doing by ear on the keyboard, even though it does that in the machine. So, you know, you can always sanity check it yourself, but I've noticed when I've compared Mixed in Key when I do my audio, and then I'll come in here and I'll quickly do my sanity check on my keyboard. Yeah, it's the key, so it's accurate. There's been a couple of times when it hasn't been, but it's rare. However, the benefit is by doing it yourself, by investing the time, yeah, sure, it's boring, it's laborious, you actually get to see some better alternatives that you can mix your tracks with. And this comes back to that thing that I was saying at the beginning. It only matters if this is the effect you're going for. Now, if you listen to people, there's a lot of DJs out there that don't mix in key, and they'll give you great arguments for why you shouldn't mix in key, and that's cool. Do what you want to do, keep doing what you do. However, if you're to step into any music school, step into any structured type of band or group, I don't know anyone that comes in off key. So just remember that. I don't know anyone that comes. If you go to a symphony and they're playing in a C major chord and you choose to come in off key, I don't know how long you'll be sitting in that chair for. So in the DJ fraternity, it's allowed. You know, there's no high barriers to entry in the DJ community. In a musical industry, it's probably not allowed. You follow the musical rules. So Yet again, up to you what you choose, but this has just been more of a little tutorial for you to see how you can do it on a keyboard, and the benefit you get from the keyboard is a compare and contrast. Thanks.